Today, we are joined by Lori Park, a spiritual counselor with 25 years of experience helping people navigate their lives and make sense of the world around them. We also have Zachary King, who was a former Satanic High Wizard. Zachary used to be part of the Satanic elites. Being a member of the Illuminati, he performed in satanic rituals and visiting places like Bohemian Grove. Join us while he explained his journey from being part of the Illuminati to escaping his life of darkness. We are fortunate to have Lori Park and Zachary King to discuss how Zachary performed as a former High Wizard. Welcome, Lori Park and Zachary King.
Thank you for joining us. This is Lori Park for Rock on America, and we have a special guest,
Zachary King.
And he has a unique history. So I want to start off by what he has on his website. So I'm going to read it. From the beginning, dabbling in the occult. At 10 years old, Zachary King joined a satanic cult and lived for pleasure, power, and profit.
From a beginning dabbling in the occult at 10 years old, Zachary King joined a satanic cult and lived for pleasure, power, and profit. After 26 years actively devoted to Satan's agendas, he experienced an instant and miraculous conversion through the Blessed Mother. She took him by the hand and led him to her son. Zachary finally felt for the first time joy, love, and peace. From that point on, he has committed himself to exposing the traps and pitfalls that the devil lays in our paths and declaring Jesus' divine mercy in his life. Christ bought it at the ultimate price. For the last 10 years, he has been a public speaker traveling across the United States, sharing his testimony.
Thank you, Zachary, for joining us today. I deeply appreciate your time and your perspective on a world that many of us have never been involved with. So if you don't mind, if you could share your background and your testimony with us.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Jumping right into it, I, at 10 years old, had a burning desire to find out if magic worked. So I did, I had watched every horror movie, and all these horror movies are filled with magic. And I had asked my Baptist preacher and my parents if magic was real. And they said no. They had apparently missed the 33 verses in the Bible that tell you not to do magical things. So I did a magic spell for money, found $5. Then I did it again, found $10, but still not convinced that magic was real. I thought I would do it a third time. Now, at the same time as that, I'm playing a game at school called Bloody Mary, where you go in the bathroom, turn out the lights, chant a phrase a certain number of times, and if you do it right, the spirit of a burn victim shows up in the mirror. But it's not a game, it's a spell. And to me, to spell work, you need intention, repetition, and demonic presence. And it's not a spirit of a burn victim, it's a demon. And we did it, and the face showed up. 49 kids ran screaming from the bathroom, and I stayed in thinking this is the coolest thing ever. I chanted this phrase. I stayed in here. He knows that I made him conjure up. Not knowing it's a demon, we kept doing it at school, and notes were finally sent home telling our parents that if we were caught playing this game, that we'd be suspended for 3 days. And I didn't want that to happen to me. And when I was playing it at school, I did it once a day. But since I can go home now and play it, I was playing it 25 to 50 times a day. In the morning, I get up and play the game. I wash my hands and play the game. I brush my teeth and play the game. I use the bathroom. I play the game. I wash my hands again. I play the game. I go out and I have breakfast. I come back and I brush my teeth and I play the game multiple times before I leave for school. Then when I come home from school, my parents aren't there. So I can play the game all day long till my parents get there. And I'm playing it multiple times. Every time I play, this face shows up. So I finally do my third magic spell in the bathroom at home. And halfway through it, I did the Bloody Mary chant. The face shows up. I hold up cash, let it know that I'm doing a spell for money. And the next day I went out to play and I found what looked like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. And later that night, I'm in my bedroom under the sheet, sitting on my bed, got a flashlight in my mouth, unraveling my treasure. And it looked like Monopoly money because I'd never seen a $100 bill. When I unraveled them all, I had 10 $100 bills. So now I know absolutely beyond a reasonable doubt that magic works. At 11 years old, I was the victim of a sexual assault at school, at the hands of a female teacher who told me it was my idea, I liked it, I wanted to do it. And if I told anybody, I would be expelled from school, I'd be arrested and put in prison, and my parents would disown me. Why would she lie to me? She's a teacher. So I didn't tell anybody ever, really. Well, I told some people in my Satanic Coven when I started, but I didn't know it was a coven. And, they had told me that what happened to me was atrocious and should have never happened to anybody, but now I can get my power back. That they asked me if I wanted to be in movies, and they showed me some of the movies, and it was porn. They showed me kids in at my age or a little younger, a little older, doing stuff, and some of those same kids in the movies were in this group. So, I'm eating whatever I want every day. They've got a pantry full of candy bars. I can have any of that I want. Or if I want a pizza, my time at home, I had 5 pizzas in my first 18 years of life. But there I could have a pizza every day. I could have burgers every day. I could have barbecue whenever I wanted. They had a huge swimming pool. They had a 50-inch projection screen TV. And that's when I found out that at my house, you could watch up to a PG-rated movie if it had been vetted by my dad first. But now I can watch R-rated movies, X-rated movies, triple X-rated movies with kids in at my age, and the same kids that are on the screen are in this room. So I can talk to them about what's this like. We would receive letters from all over the world. Like I remember getting a letter from Japan. Now it was on paper that you would write on when you were in 1st and 2nd grade. So it's not like tall notebook paper now. It's the wide notebook paper with wide rules. And it looked like it was written in crayon. And they would say, now my name was Tommy in the screen. So it would say, we want to see that kid Tommy acting with this girl and doing these acts. And it's written in crayon on child notebook paper. We thought it was children that was writing into us. We had no idea that it would be a pedophile. We didn't even know that term back then. We didn't know that it was adults that were watching us. So I was involved in child pornography for like 5 years. And then I'm also, this older kid ran up to me one day and he said, you're in a coven, right? And I just laughed it off. But during that 2-week period, I saw some of my friends there at night at a sleepover dressed in black robes. And I asked them, what are you doing? And they just got up and walked away. So this kid's comment about a satanic coven kind of bothered me. So, I went up to an adult I trusted about 2 weeks later, and I said, hey, I got a comment for you. Heard something. You're going to laugh. I heard this was a satanic coven. Crazy, right? And I thought he was just going to slap me on the back and tell me to go play. That's nonsense. But instead he said, it is. And my heart sunk into my stomach, and I was like, am I a member? No. Would you like to be? People at my conferences now, they're like, didn't you know right from wrong? It's like, well, I knew right from wrong, but, I'm addicted to drugs, and I'm doing drugs almost every day. I'm becoming an alcoholic, and I'm drinking alcohol almost every day, but at least on the weekends. I'm smoking cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and bongs almost every day. I'm having sex almost every day, but definitely on the weekend when they're shooting porno with me in it. Now, I'm addicted to porn. You got to be 18 to buy porn. I'm 12 years old. I like smoking. I like all kinds of smoking. You got to be 19 to buy tobacco. I'm still 12. And you got to be 21 to buy booze. I'm still 12. I don't know where to get illegal drugs except here. And if I quit here, all my porn is going to stop. All my having sex is going to stop. All my privileges are here. If I quit here, I lose everything. And according to the Baptist Church, Jesus defeated the devil on the cross 2,000 years ago. So he's no threat anymore. And the devil is afraid of the Baptist church. So if the devil's afraid of the Baptist church and I'm Baptist, then the devil's afraid of me. And I can do whatever I want. And if the devil is really giving me all this stuff, it's because he's afraid of me and he wants to be my friend. That totally made sense to me. Remember, I'm 12. So I decide, what do I have to do to join? And he says, well, you've done almost everything already. There's 13 steps. All you have left to do, you have to slice your thumb and bleed onto a document and sign it in 3 places in your blood. The blood of Jesus washes away all sin, but not mine. And I sign my name to that. Jesus died for everybody, but not me. And I sign my name to that. And on the final page of a 5-page document, I agree to sell my soul to the devil, which I got to tell you from experience, you cannot sell what you do not own. You don't own your soul. Jesus died for you. He paid the ultimate price for your soul. He resurrected for you. You don't own your soul. Jesus does. And you can't sell it. But Satan will tell you what he's going to tell you because he's a liar. You can't believe anything the devil says. If the devil says good morning, get a second opinion. But I was 13 years old when I signed. And if you ask any 13-year-old, they know all the answers to everything. And I believe that as well. I came into a room. I was wearing a white robe. I got baptized, full submersion in a vat. It looked like a demon skull. And full submersion. It was human blood, pig's blood, and human urine. You come up out of that, go into another room, take a shower, come out in a black robe with the cowl raised up, signifying you've been baptized into a world of darkness. You sit in a chair, and you're given a wheel about this big with a crucifix in it. You spin it upside down, signifying human sacrifice. You put your hands on the arms of the crucifix, and they read the note that you signed the night before. You show them your thumb to show that it was your thumb that you cut, and then you break the arms downward, denouncing Christ. What you're left with this symbol looks like a peace sign. And then they take that, intertwine it with the document, and say that's forever locked in a vault with your soul, and that when you die, your soul goes to Satan. And, from there, I did my first assisted abortion when I was 14. I graduated from high school when I was 18. I went to college, and I was looking for another satanic coven, and I figured I'm not going to be able to find one easily because they're not going to advertise it in the town square. But I found it easily because they advertised it in the town square. My school had the student union, and every Wednesday was the day that they evangelized for membership. So there would be the Baptist and the Catholic student union, the Republican and the Democrat student union, the Wiccan and the Satanic student union. I joined that. Well, I didn't really officially join it. I just started going. And these are kids away from home for the first time. And they think about Satan is all about getting high, getting drunk, and having sex. I've been doing that since I was 12. I don't need a satanic coven for that. And these guys would make up magic spells on the spot. I'm going to drink a can of beer, slam it down in one gulp, wave it 3 times above my head, throw it into the trash can, and if I make it, I'll be given a brand new yellow truck tomorrow. That's not a magic spell. And then when it didn't work, oh, well, so what? And then our meetings were on Saturday, and then on Sunday, we would all go to church because they're not real Satanists. This is a club they go to. Now on Sunday, they've got to go to church and get sanctified. So then they can go to school all week and then go back to their satanic coven on Saturday to have sex, get, drugs or drink. And so that's not what I wanted. I contacted my first coven, told them that I had read a book that talked about the Illuminati and Bohemian Grove and ruling the world. Who is that? Where can I find that at? They gave me a phone number. I contacted them. They had me go to this event. It was like bigger than a Walmart Supercenter, but I don't think we had Walmart Supercenter back then. It was about 10,000 people in this building. And they have all types of food, all types of drugs, and a lot of sex happening. And there I saw the same guy, not the same guy, but the same look I saw at 13 at a sleepover. This guy dressed in a tuxedo, with a top hat and a wand and corpse paint on his face. He looked like a member of KISS, but wearing a tuxedo. Honey, can you send her, text her, or email her the image of the High Wizard that we have to send out?
Okay.
So at least she can get a look of it and maybe post it and show people. So I'm going to have my wife do that. We have an image that somebody sent us, that somebody else that interviewed me. So I see this guy and I grabbed somebody next to me and I was like, who is that? What is that? How can I do that? And he says, well, who ran your coven? I said, we had a huge coven. We had anywhere from 110 to 150 members. We were run by 13 high priests and priestesses. And they said, well, we're run by a CEO and a board of directors, and we have 1.1 million members worldwide. And that guy you just saw is the High Wizard. He does the official magic of the coven. And I said, well, I did the official magic of my other coven. I was a mage, but there were multiple of us. I wasn't just the only one. And he goes, yeah, there's multiple of the High Wizards. So I got to meet the High Wizard. And then in the immediate future, I met up with multiple High Wizards and participated in some of their assisted abortions. And I would let them know that I really want to do their job. You know, and they're like, well, just keep coming to these. And when I was 21 years old, I got a notice in the mail. And it told me that I was called before the CEO and board of directors. And so I went out and bought a handgun and a bunch of ammo, because a lot of times people that get called before them are never seen or heard from again. So I went, got my gun, got my ammo, and loaded up. I was ready for bear. And they invited me in this room, put me in a plush leather chair, told me that I was chosen to be the next High Wizard. And they gave me the High Wizard handbook, which is as hokey as it sounds. And then they pulled this giant cord on the far wall, and this black curtain went across the entire wall. There were 9 different costumes that a High Wizard could wear, or I could customize my own look. They also had a bunch of 24-inch by 24-inch photos, glossy color, that showed face paint that you can use, or you can invent your own. And I opened the book of the High Wizard handbook, and on the first page it says, no one can tell you what to do. People can suggest you do magic, ask you to do magic. They'll even pay good money to your coven for you to do magic. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to say yes. Now, eventually you have to say yes, because you have to keep a percentage up. Your magic has to be at least 90% accurate, or you lose your status. So I'm continuing to do that. They get me to do warehouse deals. They get me to travel the world and do magic spells and meet with kings, queens, dignitaries, diplomats, presidents, sometimes a vice president. Anybody that has money and power and wants more hires me. A lot of rock stars, a lot of actors, and I'm partying with all these people. And in the course of my evil, I did 146 assisted abortions. I split about 120 churches. Now, that's not destroying them. It's just a split. All Satan wants is a split. And, you know, I did everything under the sun twice, at least twice. And if you'd have given me an examination of conscience form with all the sins listed on it, I'd had a heyday. I'd have been like, I've done this and this and this and this and this and this, and I haven't done the rest of this, and I'm going to work on it now. But I never saw any of that till I became Catholic. So when I escaped Satanism, I just was tired of what I was doing. There's only so many times you can put on this costume and this makeup, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're thinking, what have I done? You know, when I first started this job, it was the funnest job in the world. I got to travel. I got to do magic. I got to meet rock stars. I got to hang out with these people. Now, after 12 years, I have to travel. I have to meet with rock stars. I have to party with them. I have to do magic. This isn't as much fun anymore. But Satan tells you when you become a high wizard, it's for life. So if you want to convert and be a Buddhist or Baptist again, or whatever you're going to be, you can be as Christian as you want to be, but you're still the high wizard. You want to be Catholic and become a Catholic priest? Go do that, but you're still the high wizard. So I decide I don't want this anymore, but I know that the only way to get out of this coven is to die. You have to commit suicide, be murdered, or die of natural causes. All three of those, I end up in hell. I'm not ready for that. So I escaped. I plotted my escape. I pilfered money out of my own bank account because they were watching that. And I escaped. And I ended up in Burlington, Vermont. And I was there. You can practice magic out in the open. If you want to dress like a Wiccan and put on all your white clothes and the white hat, you can do that in public. No one cares. If you want to dress like a Satanist and be in the black robe and have the pentagram on you, you can do that. If you want to be a druid or a shaman, you can go to college and learn that. I mean, it's public knowledge. Everybody knows you can do that. So I was practicing magic out in the open, but I wasn't joining any covens. And I had went into the retail and a bunch of retail jobs, and I ended up eventually at Piercing Pagoda. And I'm selling gold and silver and stainless steel. And this woman comes up, needs a pair of gold hoop earrings. And I present her with a pair, and she says, that's perfect. And I'm about to close the sale. And she goes, actually, I'm shopping with my daughter in the mall. When I'm done, I'll come back and I'll buy these. And I know from being a retail manager for a few years that when a woman says that, what she means is, I'm going to find it cheaper someplace else. But she had an honest face. I knew she was coming back. And sure enough, 3 hours later, this woman came back. And we closed out the deal. And I was handing her the receipt. And I told her, we have an 800 number on this receipt. If you call that number and take a survey, you might win $1,000. And she goes, that's great. I've got something for you too. And my heart, again, sinks into my stomach because I know she's going to pull out a Jack Chick pamphlet, tell me that I'm sinning. I need to drop to my knees and beg for forgiveness, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff I can't do because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 13. But I also do learn from my mistakes. I said that once to an evangelist, an evangelical, and he followed me home evangelizing to me. So I know not to do that. Don't say that. Just take the pamphlet. They're like a little comic book. I'll read that. I'll be entertained. Then I'll throw it in the trash. Nothing will ever happen. And instead, she pulls out a little cheap gold-colored piece of tin. I don't know what that is. And she says it's very powerful. Now, Protestants don't bless anything, so I don't know what she's talking about. And then she says the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Remember, I partied with rock stars. You give rock stars unlimited booze and drugs, and they will write some crazy lyrics. My example is, like, I think it was the number one song of '99. It was Bow to Bob by Kid Rock, who never had a song bigger than that, but that song made him a rock god. And his rock god lyrics are, bow to ba, to dang, diggy diggy, up jumps the boogie. It's like, it took you 24 years to come up with that, and that's the best you got. And at my conferences, everybody laughs them, but I'm like, you don't have any room to laugh. We made that the number one song of the year. On MTV, it was the number one video of the year. And that was it. So what she said to me at that moment was weirder than bow to ba, the dang to dang. She said, the Blessed Mother's calling you into her army. And I'm thinking, Blessed Mother, Isis, Gaia. I grew up Baptist. We got Mary. No title, nothing else. So I just kind of tune her out. I go to my happy place. And I'm thinking, how do they all find me? There must be a sign above my head that says, crazy, come here, and an arrow pointing down to me. And only crazy people can see it. And proof is that woman right there. And, I tune her back in. And again, she says it's very powerful. Mm-mm. No. I'm the High Wizard. You don't challenge me. I took that as a challenge. You somehow know I'm the High Wizard, and you're trying to challenge me and tell me this is powerful. This isn't powerful. There's no power to this. There's no mystique to this. I'm going to take it in my hand, and I'm going to clench my fist around it. I'm going to feel that it has nothing. And then I'm going to either toss it on my floor, slam it on my counter, and tell her it's worthless. Her God is not powerful. And if she gets offended, I don't care. And if she returns the gold and gets her money back, I don't care. And if she decides she wants to call my boss, the regional manager, and complain, I don't care. My manager knows that I make my days, my weeks, my months, my quarters, and my year. She's going to think, well, she didn't like your tie. She didn't like your hair. She didn't like your cologne. Something like that. It's not you. You didn't say or do anything. I'm confident. So she drops it in my hand. She's all giddy because I'm willing to take it. And I'm going to do these things. I clench my fist around it, all ready to tell her these things, except when I clench my fist around it, my store and my mall completely disappeared. This woman is not standing in front of me. I'm standing in a darkened void. I can't see anything. And this woman tells me about the magic spell I did last night. I can hear her voice, and that's of the devil. And I've helped split over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. And I've committed over 100 assisted abortions, and that's of the devil. And when I first went to this place, I wanted to hit her with a magic burst of energy just to knock her back. But now I know her magic is stronger than mine. When I was the High Wizard, I couldn't give somebody a worthless gold-colored piece of tin, transport both of us to a darkened void, know all their sins. Her magic is stronger than mine. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to sweat. I'm scared to death. What happens if I drop this thing and I just fall through the darkened void and never find my way back to the mall? I don't know what to do. And she says again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And instantly, like a grace from the Holy Spirit, I know that that's the Mother of God, which is a very strange revelation for a former Baptist to have. We'd rather shoot ourselves in the face with a shotgun than say Mother of God. And when I realized it was the Mother of God, Mary showed up. And she smiled at me, and it was a smile I knew I didn't deserve. I was acutely aware of my 146 assisted abortions. And she took me by the hand that had the medal. And she turned me around. Divine Mercy Jesus was standing behind me. I didn't know what Divine Mercy was. I just knew I had these rays of light shooting around me and over me and under me and through me. And I knew in that instant I did not sell my soul to the devil when I was 13. I knew that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. I knew all my magic, my occult, my New Age, and my Satanism was false. And I knew everything Catholic was truth. And the Blessed Mother told me that my job was to help her end abortion. I opened my hand and I was back in my store, back in my mall. This woman is telling me that she's Father Joseph Whalen's personal assistant and that he's the busiest priest she knows. He's so busy, he doesn't even have time to talk to her. And her phone rings and she looks at it. She goes, "This is Father Joe. I've got to take it." I was like, "Oh, you just explained all that. Go ahead." So she takes the call. At that time, Father Joe was going deaf. So he talked like everybody was going deaf. And so I could hear everything he said. And she's like, "Hello, Father Joe. What can I help you with? Can you hand the phone to the young man you're talking to?" I was like, "Sure." So she hands me the phone. I'm shaking like Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, "Hello? Welcome to the faith. Hand the phone back to Marianne." So I hand the phone back to her and he hangs up on her. Her daughter comes up to the counter and says, "Would you go out and bring this man one of each of everything?" So her daughter runs outside. We get 2 more phone calls like Father Joe, who also had said, "Can you hand the phone to the guy you're talking to?" And one was a former Baptist. Yes. I'm like, how do you people know this? She didn't text anybody. So then the daughter comes back in with a paper grocery bag filled with a Catholic Bible, pamphlets, why do Catholics believe this or do that, and like 125 Lighthouse Catholic media discs. I don't know if there was that many, but the bag was filled with them. And when I got home that day, I told now she's my ex-wife, "Honey, guess what? I'm Catholic now." And my ex-wife had been a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness. And to them, the Catholics are the mortal enemies. And so she said, of all the things you could possibly be, why would you be Catholic? But the very next day, she went to Mass with me. And at the conversion, or at the consecration, I saw Divine Mercy Jesus. And I thought if you were Catholic, I thought all the Catholics in the room were seeing what I was seeing. And I turned to my ex-wife and I said, "Do you see that?" She goes, "What?" I said, "That man up there on the stage." She goes, "That's the priest." I went, "No, the other guy." She goes, "I don't see anything." I said, "You don't see it because you're not Catholic." But then I talked to people later and they said that nobody was seeing that. I was the only one. And then this woman told me there was a place I can go so that I can see Jesus anytime. And I was like, "Is there a sign-up sheet for that? Do I sign up now and then 5 years from now they'll say your slot's open. You have a 4-hour block of time from this time to this time on this month and this day?" And he's like, No, you just go. Just go. You can get in anytime. So I go. Shock number one. Ours is the only other car in the parking lot. Shock number two, there's no line to get in. Shock number three, we open the door. It's me, my ex-wife, this woman, and Jesus. This woman looks up like a deer in the headlights and packs her stuff as fast as she can go. If this had been an Olympic event, she got gold. And as soon as she was done, she said, "You can't leave till someone else comes in." And bam, she's out the door. And I thought, why would I leave? I'm in a room with Jesus. That became my normal hangout. I was there anywhere from 30 minutes to 18 hours every day. And it was the most joyous place to be. And I did that for my first 2 or 3 years in Catholicism. I was there practically every day. I ended up coming, that happened in January of 2008. In May of 2008, I officially came into the church. In 2010, I started my own ministry. And I've been doing that since then. And I think it was August of 2023, I did a podcast on my curriculum vitae. It's a resume for Catholic speakers. And in that, as of a year ago, my vitae is 18 pages long. I've got like 210 conferences and 210 interviews. And now I have this one. Ask away.
We did talk one time on the phone, and you did share with me about the fact that you saw Jesus, and then you told me how long after that experience you saw Jesus and how that transpired. So I was wondering if you could share that with the group too.
I saw Jesus at every Mass and every time I went to adoration for 3 years. And I think, it wasn't like, ooh, I have the ability to see Jesus. It was a gift from Jesus to allow me to see him. But to me, the reason for that is that he knew I was going to be a speaker one day. And, when I talk about the 3 greatest gifts that Jesus gave us, I mentioned the Eucharist, confession, and his mother. And there's, out of the 1.4 billion Catholics that are in the world, only 15% of us believe in the true presence. Everybody else believes it's just a symbol. It's just a piece of bread we're eating. There's nothing to do with it. That Jesus isn't really there. And I'm one of the 15% that believes through transubstantiation that when the priest blesses the Eucharist, he becomes in persona Christi, which is in the person of Christ. The priest becomes in persona Christi twice, in the confessional and when he consecrates the host. And in the confessional, there's Protestants that say they confess directly to God. So do we. We confess to a priest who becomes in persona Christi, where Christ comes down, and it's Christ that gives us absolution and gives us our penance.
As a High Wizard, you did fulfill different responsibilities. Can you tell us a little bit about the warehouse deal?
Okay, so there's a warehouse in Hollywood and one in Los Angeles. There's warehouse districts, and everybody would know, like, rock stars or people that want to be rock stars or people that signed a deal in the past and they weren't happy with where it got them, and they wanted to, get more fame, would come here and they'd be told about it by their agent or their director, producer, a friend, another rock star, publicist. Somebody would tell them, you need to go to this warehouse, be there during this time, and be prepared to do anything. Now, if the person was truly prepared to do anything, we'd have a lot more rock stars than what we have. But they're not prepared to do anything. So I show up and I have an entourage with me. Now, back when I did this, we didn't have laptops and tablets and all that stuff. We didn't have computers. But we had them, but you had to have like a 286. You couldn't carry that with you. So my people carried notebook papers and clipboards. And you would write down the people that are auditioning. I would walk through a room. I'm dressed as the High Wizard. Honey, did you send that?
I did. I already did.
Okay.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. So I'm dressed as the High Wizard and I'm walking through. Some people have set up their entire band. Like they're ready to play for me. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're a harmonica player. I can make you a rock star. You just have to be willing to follow the devil's rules. So I walk through this room and I say, who wants to be famous? Obviously, everybody throws their hand up. All right, what are you willing to do to be famous? And everybody says they would do anything. Okay, now here comes the moment of truth. I saddle up next to somebody and I say, what do you mean by anything? Well, I would do anything, but nothing with animals and nothing with children. All right, take their name off the list. You can try back in 90 days. And that's the everybody I'm asking, that's the same reply I get. Nothing with animals. Some people just say nothing with animals. They would do anything with anybody, but nothing with animals. All right, take their name off the list. And we know everybody that's there. And their names are on this list. They tell them the name. The guy searches through it. He finds on his list and writes 90 by it. You can come back in 90 days. And you go to the next person. You keep going to all these people. Finally, there was a guy there. He, by his own admission, he cannot sing, he cannot dance, he can't write music, he can't write lyrics, he can't even write a poem. And I said, hold on, there's a Dr. Seuss book in this building. I know there is, I've been here before. So I had somebody search for it, they found it. And I said, read this to me. And so he started reading this Dr. Seuss rhyme. And just before it rhymed, he closed the book and said, I don't get it. So he couldn't even make a Dr. Seuss rhyme. And I was like, okay, but you're willing to do anything. He goes, anything. I said, give me an example of what anything means. And I'm expecting the same thing. Well, nothing with kids, nothing with animals. And he said, if you put me in a room with a naked 3-year-old and a horse, I'm going to have sex with at least one of them. Both of them, if I think that's what you want. I pulled out a card and I said, you're my boy. Because Satan doesn't want the person that has rules. Satan wants the person that's willing to jump in the mud and be drugged through it. I hand him a card. It has the New York skyline on one side and a phone number on the other side. I said, you call that number, do whatever they tell you to do, and I'll see you on MTV in 6 months. I saw him on MTV within 90 days. And he was singing and dancing in one of the most famous boy bands of the 1990s.
Wow.
So I would go through, and sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's a man. Usually it's men, but there were women, and there were also girls, people under 18. And I would tell them, if you're willing to do anything with anybody or anything, you can be famous. And sometimes it's parents that bring their kids. And when they wanted an example of what might happen, I would give them real life examples where rock stars had told me they had to do. And, the parents and the girl would like, ooh, that's gross. But I saw them on MTV 6 months later. So it must not have been too gross. And the parents know that if the child does it, they're all going to be rich. But, it's like, how willing. The thing is, you're going to have to go to one of two places to fulfill what you have to do. One's in LA and it's a hotel. One is in another city and it's an actual warehouse. And it's kind of dingy. It looks skeezy. So a lot of people get there and they're like, not doing that. But if you agree, if you take the card, you call the number and you show up. In the hotel, they copy your ID, but they don't give it back to you until you come back downstairs. So you've got to go up, you got to wait for a while, then they call you and tell you your room is ready. They give you a key and you go upstairs. When you enter the room, there's a camera above the door. But you don't know that yet. When you walk in, there's a diamond-shaped white table, and there's a long note on it, and it's typed up in large letters, and it tells you behind you above the door is a camera. There's envelopes in the bowl. You have to take out one of the envelopes, open it up, read what it says, hold it up to the camera so it can see what you have to do. Then you have to decide if you're going to do that or not. If you decide you don't want to do that, you have the option of pulling out another envelope, seeing what it says. And then if you decide not to do that, you close up both envelopes, put the contents back in them, put them in your back pocket, turn around and leave, come back downstairs, turn them in. Now, if you do that, you'll get your license back, but you'll also be told that you can't try again for 3 years. And you know this up front because you're reading the note, that this bowl is going to give you two options. And if you decide that both of them are too gross to do, you can't try again for 3 years. And in that 3 years, this is where Satan gets you. Because for 3 years, you're going to watch all the rock stars come out, and you're going to see people that are getting Grammys, and that are getting movie deals, and that are having #1 songs on the charts, that your music is better than theirs. But they signed the deal that you wouldn't do. And you got to watch everybody get famous in front of you. And this could have been you. You could be the millionaire with the mansion and the cars and the girls and whatever you were interested in. But now you've got to watch everybody else do it. And when you go back to try again 3 years later, you're 3 years older. You're maybe not as good looking as you used to be. You're not sure if your songs are as good as they used to be. And those 4 gross things may be different now. And then you were thinking, maybe I could do that, but I don't think so. Now they might be 4 different things, and they might be worse. So what I was told by rock stars that I made friends with when I was making them rock stars, that you have one of 4 options. And like I said, you have 2 choices. So if you get the first one, you don't want to do it, you can choose the second one. Now, if you get the second one and you decide, I think I'll do the first one, you're allowed to do that. You can do whichever one. You're going to go into a room. You're going to be filmed and photographed. And you're going to have 3 hours to complete the task. The first one I give you, to me, is I'm not saying it's not gross, but it's the least gross of the 4. You can drink a large cup of vomit. Now, if you throw it back up, that's fine. You don't have to re-drink it. You just have to drink it once. But you still got to drink it, and you got to empty the cup. That's the least gross of the 4 to me. The next one is that you have to eat a large bowl of animal feces. don't think I could go through that one. See, I was a kid and I had to drink a lot of nasty medicine. You tilt your head back, hold your nose, and just gulp it. I'm not sure I could do that with a cup of vomit, but I could do that better than I can with a bowl of poop. The next one is you are going to have sex with a room full of animals, which is not savory either, not safe either. And the other one is that you're put in a room with children under 12 to do the same thing that you do with the cats and the dogs. And these kids are human trafficked, and they've been sex trafficked for probably most of their 12 years. So this isn't going to be a shock to them, but it is going to do something bad to you. You know, if you want to think of what rock star out there did which one of these things, I'm not saying he definitely did this, but if you listen to what P. Diddy is being charged with, sounds like he did the pedophile choice. You know, and he's still doing it. And now he's being charged with stuff.
So this is about the musicians, actors. Do they have a warehouse deal too?
I don't just do. I only got invited to actors' parties. And,
Okay.
you know, I got to see a lot of nefarious activities at parties. I saw girls that were underage doing a lot of stuff they shouldn't be doing. And then I would see them later be catapulted into superstardom, you know, because they slept with the right person. You know, like the casting couch is a good thing.
What
Sports figures would get magic from
about
me.
sports figures?
Right. So, you know, they would basically, when the rock stars sell their soul, they're not actually selling it to me. They sell it to the Illuminati. They agree to sell it to the Illuminati, which if you look at, there's a video, a documentary, it's on Netflix, but on Netflix, they don't have the outtakes. They just have the actual video. So you'd have to buy or rent the DVD of Gaga 5.2, where she did this documentary. But on the outtakes, she says that she was coming out of the back of a strip club after doing her act there. And she was loading up the van with all of her materials and her equipment. And this guy was out there. And he told her that he could make her a star. She's got potential. He could make her a superstar, though. And she's like, what do I got to do? And he goes, nothing with me. You just have to agree to sell your soul to the Illuminati, and you'll be superstar famous. So she thought, what have I got to lose? And she did it. And now she has full-on body pain all the time. And she has people coming over doing stretching with her, yoga, Reiki, energy healing, or massage. And she says that she thinks she's possessed, and she thinks she needs an exorcism. You know, I didn't make this up. She says this in the video. You know, so that this isn't fake or lies. The rock stars would sell their soul to the Illuminati, which is basically selling it to the devil, and then they become rock stars. But, you know, I had a guy come up to me that wanted to sign until he saw me, and then he pulled his hand back. And, you know, he said that he had a star deal with his other band, and they became rock stars, but they didn't hit mega superstardom like he thought they were going to do. He thought that the selling their soul was a disappointment. They didn't hit superstardom like they thought they would. I don't know. Well, you can try again. You can sign another deal with me. He was like, oh, I'd rather make it on my own. I was like, well, I'm a big fan. Whatever you put out, and this is older because I said, I'll buy whatever album you put out. You know, he said, okay. And then, but he refused to shake my hand. Thought there might be some kind of demonic attachment there. I was like, no, that's cool. That's fine. So, you know, he didn't resign. So I wish I could tell you his name, but my attorney tells me I could be sued if I did that.
Yeah, I would not want that. So you did deals basically with artists in the music industry.
It would be R&B, rap, heavy metal, basic rock and roll, country music, anybody that wants to be famous. I signed an opera singer.
So then you work with the music industry, but as far as sports figures, politicians, government agencies, and world leaders, you would do magic for them and not like entry level stuff.
What's that?
You would do magic for them, but you wouldn't be doing any entry level things. They would be coming to you after they've already been positioned.
If you're already in position, I'm not doing anything to make you a better position. Now, if you're a rock star and you're not happy with the deal you signed in the 70s, I can re-sign you, and you can, it's like re-upping your contract. You can have more hits and become famous again. I've done that to a few singers. I've also there's a spell that makes a woman's voice better than what it is. And I've done that for 4 big name singers, female, where their voices were good before, but then they became incredible.
When you did a spell like that, how long would it last for the artist?
One of the artists that I did it for, I thought it would be permanent, but it wasn't. It lasted about probably 10 or 15 years. And then her voice has gone back to what it was, which is, it's not bad. It's just not as good as it had been. When she started out, she was good. She became a star. She had some #1 hits, or at least top 10 singles. And then she lost her voice. I did a magic spell for her voice. And then she hit superstardom again. Like, she was a star before. Now she's a superstar. And it lasted a good long while. And then she lost it again. But by then I wasn't a high wizard anymore. But it's not like I was the only one. There's generally between 2 and 5 in the world. But the number could be as low as 1 or as high as 10.
Have you heard of Project Stargate?
What is that?
I wrote it down because I just heard it the other day, and I wrote it down word for word. I just found what they were saying was interesting, and so I didn't know if you had any information to share on it, but apparently it was opened by the CIA in the 1970s. There's a gentleman, Dr. Crumb, who was using Dr. Crumb was talking about this. They were using clairvoyants and psychics and those within the occult to astral projection into the spirit realm and gather evidence because they wanted to use it to beat the Soviets, because they said they had to win the competition of the century. So we are talking Star Wars. And Dr. Croym said in 1972, they manifested. Now, he knew this because he said that in 1972, they got a hold of a manifestation in front of them. Of the man who had oversaw the project and later became Christian. But Dr. Croym said the manifestation was a ruler of the dark side. They basically made a covenant with the ruler that if they gave the agencies astral projections and remote view, then the ruler would be given the rights to America. And 1 month later, after that event happened, abortion became legal.
So I have heard something about the name of the program, but I never knew what it was. But it makes sense about the abortion.
Apparently, it's like a portal that was opening. And I guess it was successfully opened, and the blood sacrifice was the abortions that were done.
Oh, I have heard something about the name of the program, but I never knew what it was. But it makes sense about the abortion.
Apparently, it's like a portal that was opening. And I guess it was successfully opened, and the blood sacrifice was the abortions that were done ever since. And from what this person was saying is that portal is still still open, even though, you know, the abortion was moved down to the States. And I'm assuming there was some closure, but it's at this time, I guess it's still open.
We have, since 1972 or 3, whatever it was, we have something like 70 million abortions have taken place here. And then when you look around the world, it's an unbelievable number. And what people don't...
You shared with me on the phone about the legal changes regarding reproductive rights and demons. Can you go into that with me a little bit?
For every abortion that takes place, no matter where it happens, and no matter what the reason, a demon gets released from hell. That's according to multiple exorcists around the world and in the United States. Now, also, every 24 hours, there's a satanic black mass that takes place between, it's an extended black mass. So a regular black mass is about 45 minutes to an hour. But an extended black mass starts at midnight, which is the witching hour, and finishes at 3 a.m., which is the devil's hour, where they consecrate all the abortions of the day in their time zone to Satan and the Antichrist. So it doesn't matter why the person got the abortion. It doesn't matter that their husband would divorce them, or they'll be kicked out of their house, or if they don't have the abortion, they can't go to college anymore, or they have to leave their job, and whatever they think is the good reason for it, you know, that baby gets consecrated to Satan and the Antichrist. And that's every night in all 24 time zones around the world. And there's, like I said, there's 24 time zones. So, and how many abortions there are in a day, I don't know, but it's a lot.
So with you sharing that, and with God knowing everything, and God seeing that, how does God counteract that evil ritual?
I have 2 ministries. One is All Saints Ministry, and in that one we go head to head against the devil, spiritual warfare, and teach people how to defend themselves. And we also teach people not to wait for him to hit you. You know, just go ahead and start praying, and we give people prayers to say to attack the devil with. You know, it's like, if you could make him miserable, do so. And then I have another ministry called Our Lady of Guadeloupe's Army. And Our Lady of Guadeloupe is an image where the Blessed Mother appeared to Juan Diego in the 1800s. And in the 1600s, she converted 11 million pagans to Christianity. And, you know, she's in a basilica there in Mexico City. And the tilma of Juan Diego has the image on it. And if you research that tilma, that image is not painted on there. The image is above the tilma. It's not touching the tilma. But that tilma is like 300 years old. And somebody tried to blow it up with a bomb, and it barely singed part of it. You know, and a lot of scientists have studied it. You can put it at eye level and look at it and see the paint levitating above the tilma. There's like a 1-inch space between the tilma and the paint, but it's clearly painted by God. And it was...
I see your picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe behind you.
in the eye of the tilma, the eye of the Our Lady of Guadalupe, there you can see the reflection of somebody in it. And they used some type of microscope to look at it, and you can see Saint Juan Diego in the eye, and you can also see the bishop, the reflection of the bishop that was there. The bishop had, Juan Diego appeared to the bishop and was telling him that this woman was appearing to him and saying these things, and she wanted a church built on this site. And the bishop was like, yeah, whatever. And he wasn't believing him. So he would make Juan Diego wait to speak to him for like a week. And then finally I've got 5 minutes. So he would come in and he would say all these things. And, he's like, whatever. And he sent some guy out to follow him, see where he goes. The guy lost him on the way. He's like, I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared. And he goes, I was right behind him. So this guy would show back up to talk to the bishop. And the bishop finally said, after I don't know how many visits to the bishop said, okay, what I want you to do is, if the Blessed Mother is really showing up to you, bring me back some Castile roses. She's the Blessed Mother. She's the Mother of God. She can do it. So he was like, okay, I'll go get them. I'll bring them right back to you. So he runs back to the mountain. Now, what he doesn't know is that he's on a mountain. Castile roses don't grow on a mountain. They don't grow in high elevations. They grow where it's sunny and sultry. And you can only get them in one part of the year in like Italy somewhere. So they're not even grown in South America, and they're not grown where this is. They're not grown on the side of a mountain in high elevation. So he goes back up the mountain, and she produces like hundreds of Castile roses, and he gathers them all up and puts them in his tilma. And then he wraps it up and closes it, and he goes and he waits all day to see the bishop. And then the bishop calls him into the room and says, what do you have for me? And he unties the tilma and opens it, and Castile roses collapse on the floor all around the bishop. And the bishop's jaw drops, but he also sees the image that Juan Diego had talked about. The lady he was seeing was now painted on the tilma. But the bishop also noticed that the paint didn't touch the tilma. And he bowed down and he was like, I've been a fool. And they ended up building the church where the Blessed Mother asked it to be built.
Can you explain a little bit? You said that with Pregex, there is demons that come. Can you explain the difference between a demon, minion, entity? What is the difference?
Minions are basically, they're demons, but remember that there's 9 choirs of angels. So there'd be 9 choirs of demons. And the lowest level angel is a guardian angel. So I would imagine that the lowest level of demons is probably these minions, and they would be at the guardian angel level. But all demons are more powerful than us. I mean, we've got the name of Jesus, we can say, but, we don't have the power to exorcise them. So in that respect, they're more powerful than us.
So if you faced one of these today, what would you do?
What's that?
If you faced one of these entities today?
First of all, if you're in a state of grace, nobody can put a curse on you. But there's different types of curses. Most curses are one shot. So they're going to, no matter what a Satanist tells you or a witch tells you, you have to have a skull, have some parchment, have some candles, have an intention, light some incense, burn the candles, say some prayers, and start your spell work. The basic of a spell or a curse is that you're praying to Satan to attach a demon to somebody. That's all it comes down to. So the demon goes to you, sees you're in a state of grace, leaves you alone. Can't touch you. So he leaves. Now, there's also what's called the tri-curse. In a tri-curse, the demon comes to you today at noon. Are you in a state of grace? I'll come back. And he leaves. 15 days from now, he comes back. He's there at 4 p.m., but you're still in a state of grace. So he leaves. Another 2 weeks, he comes back, 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, you're still in a state of grace. But that was his 3 times, and he leaves. Now, the worst curse is called a hex. In a hex, an abortion takes place. That demon comes to you and goes, oh, you're in a state of grace? I got time. I'll wait. And he just hangs around and waits. And eventually, you're going to sin. And as soon as you sin, and you're not in a state of grace anymore, he attaches. Now, because a hex was done, you're at the very least going to need a deliverance to get that demon off of you. And if he stays long enough, you might need an exorcism. Now, when I face demons, I am generally facing them. I have people that call me every day. And they call me for basically spiritual warfare problems. So in that respect, I'm facing their demon on the phone. And I'm telling them what they have to do to get out of this. And the majority of people that have problems haven't been to confession. Most of them are Catholics. And most of them haven't been to confession in 25 years. But you know who they have been to? They've been to psychics and people that told them to sage their house. You know, everything that you do like that, everything that you do that's New Age or even satanic, you can't get rid of Satan by using Satan. You know, you can't get rid of the devil by using the devil. You can't, you know, when you light up sage, you're telling demons, hey, come to this house. This is the house for you to go to. Because we're doing a New Age practice, and New Age is another word for satanic. So, you know, if you're using a Ouija board to find out who's haunting your house, or using the devil, you're violating the first commandment. You're using another God instead of God to find out what your problem is. You know, so if you're opening that door, more demons are going to come in. You know, so I'm either helping somebody on the phone or an exorcist is calling me for a consultation. Or once in a while, an exorcist calls me and wants me to show up. They want me to be there in person to witness what's happening and then give them what I think. And I have exorcists that call me from all over the world. I was in the bathroom one morning at 3 a.m. and my phone rang. I thought, who was calling me at 3 a.m.? And it said it was an international call. So I answered it, and it was an exorcist in Poland at a monastery.
Where? I'm sorry. Where?
Poland.
Oh, okay.
That does 24 hours exorcism. That's full of priests, and all they do is exorcism. And so they asked me a bunch of questions, and I asked them a bunch of questions. Their demon was claiming to be Satan. And I said, and it was of a boy, and he was 12 years old. And I said, when you look at him, do you think, wow, this boy is beautiful? He's the most beautiful child I've ever seen? I'm like, no. I said, are his parents rich? No. Are his parents powerful? No. It's not Satan. I said, and the demon knows, even Satan knows, if you give up your name, then the exorcist has power over you and can cast you out. So it's not seriously going to say, my name is Satan, because if you say the name of Satan and you're trying to cast him out, he doesn't have to leave because that's not his name. I had an exorcist last week who contacted me from the Vatican and said that he was assisting the exorcist at the Vatican. And he said that they had 3 demons, and they were claiming to be Asmodeus, Lilith, and Baphomet. And those are 3 of Satan's top 5 generals. But they're not going to give you their names just like that, because now you can cast them out. I said, try and cast them out. It won't work. And they tried, and it didn't work. So they knew that those weren't the names. So demons all lie. You know, Satan is like, now Satan does the opposite. He's like 99% truth and 1% lie. But it's that 1% that throws off the whole thing. You know, like I'm pretty sure that he's the one that helped the Jehovah's Witnesses rewrite their Bible. And, you know, the biggest difference in their Bible is John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the beginning was with God, and the Word was a God. A letter word. Those off the whole verse. And in the regular Bible,
I heard you say in another interview that Reiki, AI, and yoga can be port of entries for the demons to come into people's lives.
there's an AI demon. I don't remember his name, but there's an article, I think it's by LifeSite News, and it's by Exorcist. Oh, he's the Exorcist from Tennessee, I think Nashville, Tennessee. And his name, I'm thinking of all the exorcists I know, and I can't think of his name, but you can easily look him up. But he did an article just like a week or so ago on the AI demon. Yoga, when the yoga masters used to say that yoga is compatible with all religions, but it's not, because, like I said, if you combine two religions, you negate both of them. And yoga was written, it was made, the exercises were made for the Hindu faith. So you're holding the positions of Hindu gods and goddesses. How long do you think you can do that before they decide to pay attention to you? We had a case in Jacksonville, Florida, where this woman was possessed, but she said, all I do is I go to class, I work out, and I work part-time. And so the priest was like, well, and he asked her a bunch of questions, and these are the only three things she does. And then her job is very simple. And her school, there's nothing happening there. And she just works out. So he calls her and he tells her, my friend Zachary King is going to call you. No question is off limits. He might ask you anything. You can't be offended. You have to answer. She's like, okay, that's fine. And she goes, and he will find out the truth. He'll find out how you got possessed. She's like, okay, I'm ready. So he calls me and tells me, she's waiting for your call. Call me as soon as you know. I'm like, all right. So I start talking to her and I tell her, this is what I want you to do. We're going to cover 24 hours a day, everything you do from the time you wake up Monday morning till you go to bed Sunday night. She's like, okay. I said, all right, go ahead, go. She goes, well, I wake up and I get dressed and I go to school. And I said, so you don't wash your face in the morning? You don't take a shower? She goes, oh, yeah, I do those things. I said, well, I said everything. So she's telling me all that. And I said, you don't go to the bathroom? She's like, yeah, I do that. And I said, you're leaving stuff out. So she goes through it painstakingly. Now she's irritated, but she does it. And she's telling me everything she does. And she goes to class, and right after class, she works out. I said, okay, what do you do? I work out. What do you do? I work out. But what do you do? I work out. Like, what are you doing? I work out. Are you stupid? Are you daft? What's wrong with you? And I was like, Pilates, aerobics, spinning. She goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yoga. I went, all right, that's all I need. Thanks. And I hang up. And she's like, that's all you need? So I call up Father Ed. And I was like, hey, I got your answer. He goes, that was quick. He goes, what happened? And I said, well, I told him about the I work out and how she's yelling at me. He goes, yeah, she did the same thing to me. So I just let it go. And I said, oh, I gave her examples of working out. I asked her if she did aerobics or spinning or Pilates. And he goes, oh, I didn't do that. I went, yeah. And she said yoga. And he goes, oh, there we go. So, if you hold a position of a demon, that demon will pay attention to you. And if you're interested, he's going to come to you. He's going to possess you. And it happens more than you think, because I work with exorcists around the world, and I'm being contacted. We have a document within the Catholic Church. It's written by St. Pope John Paul II, and it was called Jesus Christ, the Water Bearer of Life. And in there is 20 New Age practices that no Christian can do. And the only one I remember is yoga. But it says right in there that no Christian can do yoga. And people, when you tell them they can do yoga, what's that?
I saw a podcast from a yoga instructor named Blessings Wynn Robertson.
Blessings Wynn Robertson is a former famous certified yoga instructor who went to India to get her training at the source. She worked for all kinds of high-end yoga studios such as YogaWorks, Equinox, Bay Club, Club Sport, The Studio, etc. When she looked into what she was actually practicing, she was shocked to discover how dark the religion of yoga actually gets. If you would like to hear her testimony, follow the link here or in the description box below.
I was at a conference, and I asked at the beginning of the conference, I said, how many people practice yoga? And almost every hand went up. And then later in my talk, I said, okay, I've got an idea for an exercise, and I want to tell it to you. And I want you to tell me if you'd like to do this. So I know an exercise that if you do it, it'll cure your smoking, it'll cure your arthritis, any drug addictions, it'll stop them. Depression, it'll cure that. If you can't walk, it'll help you walk. If you can't sit down for long periods of time, it'll help you sit down. It'll help you stand up. It'll help you feel better about yourself. It'll heal so many things. How many people are interested in doing it? And all the hands go up. I said, okay, now, all you have to do is pay homage to a demon and hold the position of a famous demon. And it's different demons. So if you hold those different positions of different demons, these things will happen to you. Who wants to still do that? And all the hands came down. I went, none of you? And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. That's satanic. I went, yes, it is. But you all raised your hands when I asked you about yoga, and you said, yes, you all do yoga. I just described yoga to you. And that started a big discussion in the room. And some people got really angry and got up and stormed out. When you talk about something that's satanic and people like it, they get mad. Yoga's an example. Harry Potter's another example. People that swear by Harry Potter will get so mad, they'll storm out. I had a woman stand up and screamed at me, Harry Potter is just a book. And I said, so is the Bible, so is the Quran, so is Hustler magazine. Which of those do you let your child read? And she's like, I would never let my child read Hustler. I was like, but you let them read porn of magic. You let them read something that in the Bible is a mortal sin. If your child practices one magic spell and doesn't go to confession to confess it because you don't think it's a sin, that would send your child to hell. You happy with that? And then she's telling me I'm wrong. And there's a priest standing right there. And the priest said, he's right. Magic is a mortal sin. The Bible preaches against it. I said, there's 33 verses in the Bible that tell you not to do it. In the Old Testament, you're stoned to death. In the New Testament, you don't inherit the kingdom of God. Which would you rather have happen? Personally, if I was given the choice, I'd rather be stoned to death. Because that doesn't say you don't inherit the kingdom of God. It just says you're punished here on earth. The other one, you're punished in the afterlife. And that's the one that pertains to us now.
Okay, so there has been all these Preg X that have been done by since the 70s, and you're telling us there is all these extra demons that have been brought on, and there is also 20 New Age things that the people don't know that are loopholes or entrances.
There's more than 20. I mean, those are the 20 that he wrote about. But there's,
Yeah.
like I said,
What happens with all the demons on this?
And people are just trying to make their way through life, get up, go to work, raise their children. And we have all these things that are invisible. Where are we? What do we do from here? How do we get
These evil entities in our world.
have you ever heard of Padre Pio?
Oh, yeah.
Padre Pio said that if you could see with spiritual eyes, there's enough demons to blot out the sun. You know, he could see with spiritual eyes. He could see the demons that existed that could blot out the sun. You have to stay in a state of grace. You have to do your best to be the best Christian you can be. You got to stay close to God. You've got to, this world is temporary. I know when you're a child, a year seems to last forever. I'm 58 years old. Last year went by like that. And staying a good guy is hard. Sinning is so easy. It's a very slippery slope. And once you commit one sin, then that second sin is a lot easier. And then the third sin is even easier. Father Ripperger is prone of saying, sin makes you stupid. And he's absolutely right. After you've done the 10th sin, you're like, I'm sure God doesn't really care that much. But if you died at this point, you're going to hell. There's not a negotiation there. You've got to confess. You've got to get forgiveness. You've got to do penance. And then you've got to keep going and try and be a good guy. There's so many different ways to be good. There's only X number of sins. If you look at an examination of conscience form, it lists the 10 major sins that are in the 10 commandments. And then it gives you all the other sins that go underneath it. So thou shalt not kill. Abortion is under that. There's a verse in the Bible that mentions the people that do not inherit the kingdom of God. It's in Galatians. And in the list is a word that says sorcery. But the original word wasn't sorcery, because sorcery is magic. The original word wasn't magic. The original word was Pharmaca. And Pharmaca was a potion that women would drink that would induce an abortion. Sometimes it would kill the mom, but it would definitely kill the baby. So in the Bible, before it was translated to sorcery, it said right there in black and white that if you get an abortion, you don't inherit the kingdom of God. And so many women, they're like, well, if my baby dies in an abortion, he goes to heaven. That's not the belief in the Catholic Church. He eventually ends up in heaven, but it's a final judgment. Between now and final judgment, who knows how long that's going to be?
And I heard in an interview that you did that a woman could not forgive herself because she had an preg-ex. And your reply to her was, with God, there is redemption.
I committed 146 assisted abortions, and God forgave me. Why can he not forgive you?
There is redemption. There is redemption.
There is redemption. Confession is redemption. I had a woman that called me from Canada and from Winnipeg, and she told me that she was excommunicated by the church 25 years ago, that she went to confession to confess her abortion. And the priest threw her out of the confessional because the abortion gets you excommunicated from the church. And he kicked her out and condemned her basically for getting the abortion. And so she comes to Mass every day because she knows there's no salvation outside the church. But there's no other church she can go to. And she can't take the Eucharist because she's not in a state of grace. And she can't go to confession because he kicked her out. But she keeps coming to church, and she cries every time she's there. because she can't take the Eucharist. And then she would go home crying for 25 years. And I said, where are you calling me from? She said, Winnipeg. I said, did you call me because you know I'm going to be in Winnipeg in a week? It's like, I didn't know you were going to be here. I said, I'm speaking at a conference. And I told her where. And I said, the conference is sold out. But let me call you right back. I'm going to call the organizer, see if I can get a free ticket for you. So I called the organizer. And I said, I need something for the conference. I needed two things. She goes, what do you need? I said, I need to talk to a canon lawyer and an exorcist. She goes, okay. The priest that'll be speaking at the conference does both of those things. I said, okay, I need to talk to him. I also need a free ticket to the show, but I know it's sold out. She goes, oh, no. You're the headliner. We can give you anything you want. You want 100 tickets? I said, no, I just need one. She goes, I'll give you 2. I said, okay, fine. And so I gave her the woman's name. And then I called the woman back and I said, I'm going to get you back into the church. I said, I'm going to get you back in, accepted and all that. And so the exorcist called me and I told him what I needed. And then when I was at the conference, he came up, sat next to me and said he had already called the bishop. And the bishop said, all he's got to do is hear her confession. And then he'll write her an official letter from the bishop welcoming her back into the church. But he also told me that the priest handled it wrong, because when you get excommunicated from the church, that has to happen from the bishop, not from your local priest. And it's a formal letter, and they have to discuss it. And the woman came to confession. She was feeling penitential and sorry. She wanted to get forgiveness. And she showed up, and the priest kicked her out. So he handled the situation incorrectly. So I talked to him, and then he went out and he talked to her. And then at the Mass, she took the Eucharist and came up to me sobbing and hugged me and wouldn't let go. And said that this is the first time she's had the Eucharist in 25 years. And she finally feels right with God. And she's been telling God she's been sorry for 25 years. And I said, the angels in heaven are rejoicing for you today.
That's a beautiful story. So you've been on both sides. You've been on the evil side and you've been on the good side. What would really
upset Satan off if the people did this one thing or two things?
Okay, here's one that he doesn't want anyone to know. I got this when I was a high wizard. His number one fear is that people will realize that the babies in the womb are the greatest prayer warriors in the world. All they have is original sin, but they haven't come out and haven't committed a sin themselves. So except for the original sin, they're sin-free. And if you ask your guardian angel to ask their guardian angel to ask them to pray, God says these babies have an angel in heaven that beholds the face of his Father. Why would God not listen to an innocent 1 or 2 month old prayer? The language that they know, the angels would know, and God would know. And Satan's biggest fear.
It's so beautiful.
Satan's biggest fear is that people will realize that they're murdering prayer warriors, and they'll stop.
So we ask our guardian angel to talk to the baby's guardian angel to say a prayer to God.
And that would upset.
What kind of prayer would you say? Maybe a prayer that might clear out some of the demons in the world? I mean, what would you suggest?
I'd say, because in Our Lady of Fatima, the final secret is supposed to be against Satan's attack on the family. So I would say things that attack the family: transgender, homosexuality, pornography, and abortion, divorce.
Beautiful, beautiful. In your opinion, what's going on in the world? Where are we in the global scheme of things?
We are in a very dark place. And we are currently getting darker. I don't know if you remember this, but about 60 years ago, if you thought homosexual thoughts, you were messed up in the head. This was abnormal. You couldn't think these thoughts. And that's what the American Psychiatric Association said. If you were thinking gay thoughts, you were abnormal and you needed to stop. Then they came out and said, you can think those thoughts, but you can't act on them. Then they came out and said, you can act on them, but only in the privacy of your own home, in the bedroom, with the door locked and the windows closed. Then they said, you can chance doing it in the open, in your own home, but not outside. And then they said, you can do it outside, but at a private party. Then we started getting these gay marches, and gay bars started opening up. And they were like, it's okay for you to go, but you should wear a disguise, and you should transfer to multiple cabs or different cars, and then do that on the way home too. So people don't follow you and you're safe. You stay safe. Then civil unions became legal in one state, and then in 3 states. And then gay marriage became legal. And then it became the law of the land. And you can't speak out against homosexuality because you'll be punished in some way. Now, I bring all that up to say that about 5 years ago, the American Psychiatric Association said, you're not allowed to think about pedophilia. Then they said, you can think about it, but you can't act on it. Now, it took 60 years, 50 years actually, for homosexuality to go, you can't think about it, to it's the law of the land. We've been down that road before. We know the stop signs, the pitfalls, the roads, the dips, the curves, stoplights, and the green lights. It took 50 years to get homosexuality to where it is. How long will it take pedophilia? Back in Roman and Greek times, pedophilia was encouraged. We don't encourage it. We're still disgusted by it. When it's encouraged and it's acceptable, there are 2 states currently considering legalizing pedophilia. There was a country in 2014 that considered it, and they voted it down. The people voted it down. Their Congress brought it before the people. And the people in their country were like, no, we don't want that. So thank God, God still reigned in that country. That was France. I've heard about it being legal. The 2 states are California and Nevada. I haven't looked it up. I don't know if that's true, but that's where I've heard it is. And one of them was looking at having pedophile brothels and having it legal so people could go there and do whatever they're going to do and not get arrested for it. I would say that when that happens, or when it becomes acceptable in the United States, or when it becomes acceptable and encouraged, then I would expect the fire and brimstone to rain down. And at that point, I would just go take a chair outside and wait for it.
So you are of the opinion this is not a clash of countries, this is not a clash of culture, not a clash of political beliefs, but a clash of God and the devil?
It's good versus evil. And I admit that staying in a state of grace is difficult sometimes. Satan can't make you sin, but they can lead you to sin. There was a saint from the 11th century when there was a homosexual scandal going through the church. What a surprise. It just keeps happening. But at that time, St. Damien was an exorcist. And the demon manifested, he bound it in the name of Christ and asked it questions. And the demon said, we cannot make you sin, but we can lead you to the sin, and we can tempt you and tease you and give you thoughts about it until you do it. However, demons know why sex was created. And they know that sex was created for procreation, and that that's a beautiful act, because they do this act and then life occurs. You know, there's conception, and an angel is given to that baby at conception, and then it grows and it matures and it comes out and then it grows up. And this is the miracle of childbirth. And even demons know that. But when they tempt a person for homosexuality, and the person gets tempted and teased, and they decide they're going to do it, and they start committing a homosexual act, the demons are so disgusted by that act, they can't watch. You have to look away. How disgusting and vile must that sin be for a demon to have to look away?
And that also prevents another angel from coming in, because there's no birth.
Right. During an exorcism, sometimes the first demon that the exorcist has to cast out is an evil spirit and not a demon. And an evil spirit is somebody that lived their life totally evil and went to hell. And Satan pulls them out of hell to possess somebody. And they'll be the weakest link, because the exorcist starts with the weakest demon and goes up to the strongest. And so the first person he casts out a lot of times is an evil spirit. It's a person that was condemned in hell. And they'll tell you the truth of who they are. So I've been at exorcists where exorcisms where Adolf Hitler got cast out, or where Judas got cast out.
You're saying if someone is feeling attacked by an evil spirit versus a demon, if someone feels a heaviness or evil, or their life is being unnecessarily attacked, or a heavy weight of something evil, you believe people should turn to God, have a confession in order to relieve themselves from any attack. They should go to church, confess to God, go to a priest. Any other suggestions?
It would be a demon that would be afflicting them. The evil spirit only comes into play if the person gets possessed and Satan puts an evil spirit there. But the evil spirit doesn't have permission to come out of hell on their own. It would have to be Satan himself that does it. But, you know, a lot of people don't realize there are doorways that open evil spirits up to you, or Satan or demonic spirits, that they don't realize are doorways. You know, like Reiki is magic. When the person becomes a Reiki master, they're given a spirit guide. What do you think's another name for a spirit guide? A demon. So that person is given a demon to help them heal somebody. Why would a demon try and heal you? All he's trying to do is get you possessed. And I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard from people that have had Reiki and now they can't move. They're paralyzed. You know, and the only thing they did was get a few Reiki sessions. Tarot deck opens up the door to the demonic. So do angel cards. There's no such thing as angel cards. It's just another name for a tarot deck. Going to a psychic. You're going to the devil to ask the devil questions about the devil. You know, this can't work either. Having your house saged, having a seance held at your house, you're asking a medium to produce a demon that will tell you something about your dead relative. Maybe the demon knew your dead relative when they were alive, or maybe they know your dead relative in hell. But you're not getting your dead relative. It's not your great Uncle Bob talking to you. It's a demon that's talking to you. Doing anything New Age. Like I said, it's another name for satanic. You're opening yourself up. You're opening the doorway up the more blatantly satanic you do something, the worse off it is, the worse the sin is. But, doing things like that open doorways. Even if you're a fan of horror movies, if you're watching a lot of satanic films, demons will think, well, if you're interested in that, maybe you'll be interested in the real thing. If you're taking pictures, photos, or film, and you're seeing orbs all over the film and the camera, you need to come get a priest to exorcise your house. Because those orbs are not aliens. They're not bugs caught in the light. It's a demon caught on film. And they want you to contact them. And it's not aliens. People will try and contact aliens and ghost hunters, because they think it's a ghost. That's not a ghost. It's a demon in there. And if you talk to a demon, you give it permission to stay in your house. That's not fun. Now you go get it.
I heard in one of your interviews, even a person going to a New Age store and seeing a Ouija board, they are open to demonic attack.
And Ouija boards, like there's a Barbie Ouija board. There's a girl's Ouija board that's covered in glitter and is pink. All you got to do is pick that up and decide, oh, I wonder if my daughter would like this. And you put it back down. Now you possibly have demonic attachment. And that demon's going to go home with you and see, let's see who their kids are. I have, there's a cartoon called My Little Pony. And I've had 5 cases of little children that can see My Little Pony in their room as if it's really there. It's a cartoon pony in their room that's 2 or 3 feet high, and it's a demon. And they've all identified the same look. It has a double star over one of its eyes that's pink and purple. It has glitter hair that's pink and purple, like the hair coming down its head. And I know you want this to be family friendly, so I'll use the most scientific word I know. It teaches the girls how to magic. And it also usually possesses one of the members in the house. And I've had 5 cases of that.
Wow.
And of course, they had to work with a priest and do a lot of exorcism to take care of it. But, Satan, people don't understand. Satan's not your friend. He's not your buddy. He's not looking out for your best interest. His ultimate goal is to make you commit suicide, but to take you to hell.
I thank you so much for your time today, and you have given us 2 hours of your time. I just want to say I love what is on the back of your business card. You said how to protect ourselves and family from Satanism, the occult, dark forces, magic, and other satanic pitfalls in our culture. And you are committed to fighting the culture of death one soul at a time. And I know you have a website, allsaintsministry.org.
I did see 2 donation locations, one in the upper left-hand corner and one along the side. Are they for 2 different things?
I have a life funder, and that's for a fundraiser. And everything else is just if somebody wants to donate. I think Life Funder gets like a small percentage of that. So some people like to donate directly to PayPal or Venmo because that goes directly to us and we get all of it. And PayPal only takes it if you donate a huge sum, and then they take like 1%.
So if I donate along the left-hand side through PayPal, you would get more of the proceeds. And also, I want to know if someone would like to contact you to speak for you to come speak to their group. What is the best place for them to be able to reach you?
mysticforgod@yahoo.com. So mysticforgod@yahoo.com. Or you can call me at 802-578-6554. And that is my personal cell phone, but I give that out on all my interviews.
That is so beautiful, Zachary. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for the work that you are doing in this world, where 200 and some interviews that you've done is all donated time. I just want to honor what you are doing for this world, and personally, thank you. Bless you.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to do it. When the Blessed Mother told me my job was to help her end abortion, I took it seriously.